made us free, and do not be entangled again with the yoke of deliverance. And then our key text, Galatians 5 verse 13, then says, for you, brethren, have been called to liberty, only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. So do not exploit others through your freedom. So remember, God saved the Israelites from the Egyptian bondage. And Adventism is about that, being saved from the bondage of what? Sin. And Adventists points to the second coming of Christ, when all freedom lost through sin will be restored. It reminds us that history is moving toward a divine renewal in which every form of bondage ends, justice is delivered, established, and humanity's dignity is fully restored under Christ's reign. So when we are saying we're Adventists, we are looking forward to a day when we are going to be freed from the yoke of what? Sin. When we are going to be freed from every kind of bondage that you may be suffering from. You may be suffering from economic bondage, be Adventist. Because one day this will be done away with. You'll be freed from that. You may be suffering from loved ones dying. You may be suffering from illness. Whatever you may be suffering from, be Adventist, because one day all these things will come to us and end when Jesus comes again. Right? So, now we come to the lesson for today, and some uncomfortable things will come up. Profile of a free person. How then do we conduct ourselves if we recognize the infinite worth of every individual? If we recognize the image of God in every person, if we love our neighbor as ourselves, if we give religious liberty its true SDA meaning? So the short answer is religious liberty should be a way of life. We would display godly qualities in our lives, be it at home, at work, or socially. But then the question is, how then does this translate in real terms? Yes.
Right. This means that as a Seventh-day Adventist, I cannot force my maid or my gardener to come to church with me. I should allow them to worship as whatever they believe.
Yes. Yes. So the gardener has got what? Religious freedom. The maid has got religious freedom. So you can't force your maid to come to your church. You can't force your gardener to come to your church, right? Because they've got a what? A right to religious freedom. And we'll continue. How does this translate in real terms? So the first one is religious. It's almost this use of the same term, religious freedom. We must recognize that in each and every individual, has the right to choose which church to join. We've already said that. Each and every individual, whether poor or rich, they have a right to choose what church to worship. Do you recognize? There are churches where you shouldn't wear shoes when you go to church. You don't recognize him. Eh? Who recognizes that individual? I was once in the net before some election. You don't see him. Matsika. Eh? Kaskueri. Yes, that's Kaskueri. Yeah. So we have a right to join whatever they church they believe in. Respect that. Do not despise them for their choice. They have a right to be wrong. This is what one judge said. They have a right to be wrong. Be like Jesus, who had compassion over them. Mark 6 verse 34 says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion over them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things. So make it your mission to persuade them to join your church while at least respecting their dignity. What did my elder say in the morning? You can't coerce them, right? They have a right to worship what they want, but this is where your witnessing starts, and you can witness by the way you work, by the way you treat them, and they can see your good work and glorify your Father who is in what? In heaven. This is where our Great Commission starts. And then let's talk about the intersection between religious freedom and the freedom of assembly. Remember, we talked about freedom of assembly. You too have a right to choose which church you want to belong to, right? And this is where it gets serious. However, once you have chosen your church, you must then abide by the dictates and beliefs of that church. I'll stop there. So you've got a right to choose which church you want to go to. But you can't go to that church where you are not allowed to wear shoes and insist on wearing shoes. Go and find a church where you wear your high-heeled shoes. So if you decide to join the Seventh-day Adventist church, the Seventh-day Adventist church will expect you to abide by the church manual. Are we clear? You are not. You have a right to decide which church you want to go to. Right? But once you have decided, that church has got its rules and regulations. And you will then be expected under that church now that you have chosen to abide by those rules and regulations. And if you don't, that church has a right to discipline you according to its rules and regulations. Right? Sorry?
Go deeper.
Go deeper. Because you've got a right of assembly, freedom of assembly. Yes. So religious liberty allows you to decide which church you go to. Yes. And once you have decided which church you go to, that church will enforce its rules and regulations on you because you went there voluntarily. No one forces you to belong to that church. That's why there is freedom of assembly. And once you are in, you'll be disciplined in accordance with its rules and regulations. Yes, my brother. Yes. No. So, okay, let me use another term. You remember I gave you, I talked about marriages in Zimbabwe. And I said, you can choose which marriage you want to enter into. Once you are in that marriage, you can't expect to get the rights of the other marriage that you decided not to choose. For example, if you decide to be an Adventist, but you want 10 wives, if you get a second wife, we will discipline you and remove you from the church. But you have religious freedom to choose which church to go to. But once you have chosen, ketaketile. Are we clear? Yes, because you can't then start wanting to change the rules and regulations of the church. You want to now say, no, Mina, I want several wives. Go to the church that allows you to have several wives. You are clear? Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, they want they okay, can you ask again?
All right. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm saying, okay, I'm a mother, I've got a child, and then born a Savata like me, and then I force my children to come to church. But then they have freedom of choice. Sebekhulile, what should I do?
Pray.
No, I'm saying, is there right?
Yes, I said pray.
Okay.
By 18, it's
Yeah.
right to choose which church to go to. And you
Oh,
can't force them anymore.
okay.
Yes, you can't force them anymore. It's their right.
All right.
But the way you brought them
Uh-huh.
may actually influence the path they choose when they are older.
Mm.
That's why it's critical. Yes. But there you pray. Elder.
I have a question. Apparently, I also have a question. What then do we then say about baptizing children who are 12 years old vis-a-vis the age of majority of 18 years old?
The elders are here. I'll make a confession because I've actually never researched on why in the is it 12, not 16. Oh, I've never researched on why we we baptize them at that early age. I've not researched on that. Elder Tanya.
Okay. So from bar mitzvah, that's where we also adopt the same thing. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So really, yeah, it's a difficult one, Elder, because you know, at law, at least in Zimbabwean law, at that age, they've no capacity to consent, because they are below the age of majority. But in terms of our religion, you can what? Baptize them. Yes. Go. Yeah. Okay, please come. Please. So I'll limit the questions so that I can finish. I know Elder Maposa took my time. I tried to nudge him, but at church you can't be violent, unfortunately.
Um,
Yes.
I think at the age of 12, the child is mature to know most of the things. So I think that's why they were baptized at that age,
Okay.
because we suppose that at 12, you can't think that I don't know how to put it.
Okay. Okay. I'll leave the elders to research more on that one. Right. Let me move on. You want to ask on that question? You want to what?
Okay, what I wanted to say, if you look at our law, the age of 18 is the age of consent for the majority of things. For example, the age of sexual consent. You cannot really expect a 12-year-old, for example, to have sexual consent because physiologically, the child is not developed for that requirement. I don't know if you are following. But when it comes to matters of faith, if we look at the Bible and we look at Jesus' story, he chose, like the Bible actually says, at the age of 12, he was found in the temple answering difficult questions posed upon him by the Pharisees. So, meaning to say, when it comes to choosing Christ, at such an early, an early age, someone can choose to worship under the guidance of their parent, or to, when we look, can we wait for a child to be 18 to start providing service in the church, to be a deacon in the church? I think we have to look at it in that lens. The age of 18, it protects the child from unlawful marriage and other things which are harmful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, elders, I'll leave you with that. Let me move on. Generation wealth transfer. Okay. The law of the land, the law of Zimbabwe, provides for freedom of testation. What is testation? Yeah, protect its office. The freedom of testation. What's the smaller way? So, freedom of testation, freedom to leave your property when you die to someone or to an institution. I mean, you can leave all your property to SPCA, it's allowed. You can leave your property to Solusi University, it's allowed. Okay. So you've got what? Freedom of what? Testation, that's what it's called. So let me deal with it. It is easy to say, this is my property, right? And it's yours. You can do what you want with it, how you want, you can do whatever you want with that property, right? This has actually been confirmed by the Supreme Court, Chikwada versus Chikwara, 1920. Our current Chief Justice made that ruling that you've got what? Freedom of, we call it freedom of testation, right? But is that the true meaning of freedom? As Seventh Adventists, I'm talking from a religious perspective, right? So, chaotic situation. This is what this philosopher says. Freedom without responsibility and duty to others is not freedom at all. I'll read it again. Freedom without responsibility and duty to others is not freedom at all, but leads to only chaos and a further degradation of the community binding principles that hold us together as a civilized society. You hear what he's saying? Yeah. And remember what the church manual talks about, where you have always to remember the equivalent right of others. So freedom without responsibility and duty to others is not freedom at all. It leads to chaos. That's what he says. And then Ellen White, it's a long quote from Testimonies of the Church, Councils on Stewardship, Testimony of Treasures. He says, it often happens that an active businessman is cut down without a moment's warning. And on examination, his business is found to be in a most perplexing condition. In the effort to secure his estate, the lawyer's fees eat up a large share. We are not complaining. If not all of the property, while his wife and children and the cause of Christ are robbed. Those who are faithful stewards of the Lord's means will know how their business stands, and the men will be prepared for any emergency. Should their probation close suddenly, they would not leave such a great perplexity upon those who are called to secure their estate. Is it clear? All of you, you've got some property. If you say to someone, have you got a will? They'll say, but me have nothing. Kati, what about your dresses? What are you wearing? Who will take them? People fight for dresses. I've seen people fighting for, they used to be cities. What is there now? Eh? I'm right. People would fight for anything. Ukuthi awubaba lokhu awubhuti this that ama-hair pieces, them to someone, avoid these disputes. But what she's saying is, we don't do estate planning before we die. We think we are going to live forever, right? And you live chaos after your death. So once you suffer controlled hardships, because husband did not protect the family through estate planning or generation wealth transfer document. We've heard of property grabbing, evictions of family. Here is a family sitting outside, destitute. Many a son, many a daughter have suffered and told hardship because either the mother or father died did not use freedom for the benefit of the family. Careers have been destroyed. Scars have been laid for many children for life because of this. Right. And then the next part, please read it carefully. Not exercising your freedom of testation is in fact an abuse of that freedom. I'll read it again. Not exercising your freedom of testation is actually an abuse of that freedom. So not leaving a document that states how you want your property to be what is what an abuse of that freedom. You know, to do it and not to do it. But when you don't do it, you are actually abusing that freedom. First Timothy 5 verse 8 says, but if any provide not for his own, especially for those of his own house, he has what? Denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. That's what the Bible says. So I say, don't shoot the messenger. So if you do not provide for your own, especially those of your own household, you are worse than a what? An infidel. I hope the message is coming through. So PSDA in what? In generation wealth transfer. Right? So let me break it down. If you are a Seventh-day Adventist, you know that you worship a God of order. Remember my elder today, he says when we are filing out of church, you don't just what? File out. We've got an order of filing out, and that's what you said. Yes. Siyagcina sesithuzana emnyango lapha. There is order. So now you worship a God of order. So order your life while you are alive so that it reflects who you worship and which church you belong to. Not only that, you then live your wealth in the manner that bespeaks of your religion, in a manner that shows that you are what? You are SDA. As God's steward, an SDA is accountable to the Lord for his property. Right? Because you are a steward. Right? While living, you must use God's property wisely and consider it your duty to plan who those assets should go to upon your death in keeping with good stewardship principles and practice. So an SDA must view estate planning as a spiritual experience. It is a process that must be approached prayerfully and with much counsel from those who not only have the necessary technical expertise, but also possess experience in the truth and knowledge of the divine will. So actually, Ellen White says you don't approach just any lawyer to help you in generation wealth transfer, but you approach one who is knowledgeable of the divine will. No, I won't give them my address. Here is the part. So one of the parts that's very interesting, and don't shoot me. I'm SOP, Mr. Ndo. Yeah, you will not just leave your property to anyone. Let me read this. Yeah, Ellen White says, if they have children, so if parents, whatever, if members of the church have children who are afflicted or are struggling in poverty, and who make, I highlighted that, who make a judicious use of means, they should be considered. You know, when you are what? Doing your generation wealth transfer. Consider those who are struggling, those who are in poverty, but who make use of your property. consider them. But if they have unbelieving children who have abundance of this world and who are serving the world, they commit sin against the master who has made them his stewards by placing means in their hands merely because they are their children. God's claims are not to be lightly regarded. So what she is saying, what she is saying is, if you have children who are poor, who need the means and are going to use it wisely, leave property to them. But if you have those that are prodigals, that will abuse the property, you are committing sin if you leave that property to them. Yes, my brother. You want me to explain further the way I understand it? Okay, where is the mic? The young man has disappeared. Oh.
Elder, I was saying sometimes these traits only show up later on in life. Probably when you leave the property, children are still working and doing the right things.
That's fine.
And then later on there, we see things that are trending around. Some of these traits now start to
They
happen.
happen after you are dead.
Yes.
So every time you do it, you are fine.
Yes.
It's not a sin because you have no prophetic foresight that this will happen. So it's fine. And but I will explain it further what you should do. Yes, 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 yes,
A balance. So
yes.
where do I then strike a balance in me not leaving anything completely to them,
Uh-huh.
and in me also not sinning against God by being an infidel? Because you might see ukuthi abantwana laba, if I leave them with my estates, probably 10 years down the line, they will not have anything.
Mm-hmm.
But also I need to, njengomzali, you get it, as a parent, I also need to make sure that I don't die and leave them destitute.
Okay. Yeah, very, very good question. Very good question. Let's go back. The last bullet that Elder Daniel assumed that I was campaigning. Elder Daniel, can you read the italicized part there? Yes. So what Ellen White is advocating for is that when you are doing this, do it prayerfully. Remember, you're exercising your freedom of testation. Do it prayerfully, with much counsel, and seek the counsel of those who are knowledgeable on the what? On the divine will. And then you'll do the right thing. So let me give you one of the ways. You know, we have got children that you know that they have no capacity to hang money. We must accept reality. There are some who have no capacity. Even when they are growing up, I've got two sons, you give them money, you give them a gift. You can see one wants to tear the wrapping paper. They don't care about the wrapping paper. They want the gift and get there quickly. The other one will remove the sellotape, do this, and paper laconi wrapping paper is folded nicely. Then he opens the gift, whatever. Yeah, those are traits. They are telling you something. But there are ways of catering for people that cannot hang money, that cannot hang wealth, and that cannot think wisely. If I hope I'm not being unkind. For example, you can create a trust. You can create a trust where you employ Where are the accountants now? Or Notando? Okay, employee and Notando will be an accountant, a trustee who is an accountant, looked at from a legal perspective, looked at from a religious perspective, looked from a business perspective, and the request will be determined. Yeah. So there are ways of doing it. So at times the way you do it reflects who you believe in. Yes. But take care of the children, my sister.
Okay. Okay. Hi. Okay, so I just want to ask something involving families. Assuming someone is deceased and has children, that she did not trust with her estate and instructed her siblings, who are probably the uncles and aunts to these children, to say, I am about to die because they are ill. Should I die? I don't want these children to get anything. In fact, these children are owing me money. So and so owes me so much. So and so owes me so much.
Yeah.
Lingabaniki lutho lwami, and I want you to collect my money. This person then passes away, but there's nothing written.
Okay.
Probably there are audios
Okay.
which were sent to the sister or the brother.
Okay.
So do these uncles and aunts have the right to not grant these children their mother's properties or estates? Do they have a say?
Okay. You see, okay, so we're going deeper there where we are talking about oral wills. We are talking about, is that regarded as a valid will? No, it's not. It's only in emergency situations. They are what are called soldiers' wills. When a soldier is about to die and they are in a bag, if they say something, whatever, that is recognized at law. But when you look well, there is no emergency, whatever. No, it's not. It's not an oral will. Yes, but it's not an what you say orally, put it in writing. Yeah. Because there are certain formalities that you must follow for a will to be valid. And yeah. So yeah, that's why you need, again, Elder Daniel was frowning, but that's why you need the expertise, my elder. It's very, very useful. Okay, I need to move. Where was I? Okay. Okay, I'll leave this one. It's do you want me to read it? It says, okay, because of Christ is robbed, not by a mere passing thought, not by an unprecedented act, no, by your own deliberate act, you made your will, placing your property at the disposal of unbelievers. After having robbed God during your lifetime, you continue to rob him after your death. And you do this with the full consent of all your powers of mind in a document called the will. What do you think will be your master's will toward you for thus appropriating his goods? What will you say when an account is demanded of your stewardship? Okay. Let's come to another segment of freedom. So, lifestyle. You are a free man, you are a free woman, you are free to live the way you want. But, it's part of religious freedom, it's part of freedom. But if you are a Seventh-day Adventist, you be true to you'll be a true proponent of the health message that we stand for. We talk about the health message at Seventh-day Adventist, right? Yeah. So, this will be reflected in your lifestyle, what you eat, what you drink, your wellness habits. Where is she? Nompulelo, what did you say in the morning? 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31, what does it say? Whatever you eat or drink, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all to the what? To the glory of God. So you must do that to the glory of what? Of God. So you see your eating habits. Yeah, at times, the, when we suffer afterwards, we ask ukuthi kathi Mlimu ke mina ngiyahamba e-church ngenza you know, but your lifestyle. Okay, so listen to some of these quotes, you know, they may startle you, but they actually say the correct thing. Ellen White says, the more perfect our health, the more perfect will be our labor. Aren't you, church cats? You know, you do your clerical duties well if you are well. Go to child, the more perfect your health, the more perfect will be what? Your labor for God and your labor for your own businesses. Who profess to be followers of Jesus should feel that a duty rests upon them to preserve their bodies in the best conditions of health, that their minds may be clear to comprehend heavenly things. Is it clear there? You know, when you are not well, at times, you know, whatever my elder was preaching in the morning, you know, you have a divided mind because you are worried about something, or your health is affecting you and you can't comprehend these heavenly things, right? Ellen White further emphasizes the connection between health, mental strength, and usefulness to God. I think that lessens physical strength enfeebles the mind and makes it less capable of discriminating between right and wrong. It cannot be to the glory of God for his children to have sickly bodies or dwarfed minds. I'm reading the quotation from Ellen White. So it's important for us to have healthy habits, you know, exercising and so on. And she continues, a clear mind enables us to understand God's will. A strong body enables us to do it. The more perfect our health, the more perfect will be our labor, that they may keep their bodies in the condition necessary to do the work of the Lord. And you see my elder there, yeah, right, having written all the way to Plumtree. How many kilometers is Plumtree from here? 100 kilometers on a bicycle. And then back, you know, but physical exercise, physical conditioning is also good for what? For you to comprehend heavenly things, you know. And they say physical exercises induce the body to produce an array of chemicals that the brain loves, including endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, and I can't pronounce the other one, the full good chemicals. So you more than compensate for the time you invest on the treadmill with the improved productivity and efficiency. So you may think you are wasting your time going to the gym. You may think you are wasting your time exercising, but you compensate them with efficiency and productivity when you start doing your work. So let us be good proponents of what? Of our health message. This is low. Yeah, I need to see you on the road jogging. Okay, participation in church. At least I didn't get anyone opposing the health message. Elder Tanya. No. Okay, that's fine. So he's giving me more time to move. So participating in church, religious liberty means you are free to participate or not to participate in church activities. Right? In fact, you are free. No one will force you. It's voluntary to participate and in church activities. Being a chorister, deacon or deaconess and elder, accepting any position, they are free. Nominations, we nominate and we decline. Aren't you, Elder Swan? Yeah, we decline for various reasons. You are free. You are free to do that. But at the same time, you will know that, as Ellen White said, I read this, we can never be saved in indolence and inactivity. There is no such thing as a truly converted person living a helpless, useless life. It is not possible for us to drift into heaven. No sluggard can enter there. Those who refuse to cooperate with God on earth would not cooperate with him in heaven. It would not be safe. It would not be safe to take them to heaven. Eh? Yeah, kuthiwa bazasikhathaza ezulwini. We love sitting in the pews, but part of it is being what? Participating. I'm not saying accept every position. No, at least participate in what? Church activities. It's part of what? Religious liberty. Right? Okay, let's talk about children. You are free to have children as many as you want. Yeah, I am one of the products of many children. I'm the ninth in my family, so we are 12. So hey, if my parents had practiced family planning, I would not be here. Yeah. But be a responsible parent, both in the way you raise them and the way you take care of them, right? You are free to give them pocket money whenever, however, and as much as you want, right? But if you are an SDA parent, remember to teach them about tithing and offering. So give them money. Yeah, you are free to do that. But teach them about what? Tithing and offering. Ellen White strongly supports this responsibility. She says, parents should teach their children to bring an offering to God, even though it be small. The Lord will accept their gifts. So let's teach them, about tithing, about offering. Yeah. Deuteronomy 6, verse 6 to 9. It's our responsibility as children and part of our religious liberty. The commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts, in your hearts. Impress them upon your children. Talk to them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. So Ellen White, not Ellen White, the Bible is simply saying, every opportunity you get, teach your children, about tithes, offerings, commandments of God, and so on. So there is a response. Once you are free, my elder, to have as many children as you want, accept an equal responsibility of what? Teaching them the laws of God. When you sit down, when you rise up, on the doorposts and everywhere. Right. You are free, Eltandong. As section 60, subsection 2 of the Constitution says, to take your children to any school you want. That is your freedom, right? But remember to respect the Sabbath if you are a Seventh-day Adventist. I speak, I'm guilty of it, so yeah, but it needs to be said. The Constitution of Zimbabwe allows us as Seventh-day Adventists to have institutions, Seventh-day Adventist institutions, right? Where we can practice our religion, right? We don't take our children there, right? So remember what it means when they participate in sporting activities on Sabbath and other such activities. Do not compromise your children's spiritual well-being. So it's your responsibility, it's your choice to take your children to any school. But do not compromise their spiritual well-being. Ellen White actually says, parents, above everything, take care of your children upon the Sabbath. Do not allow them to violate God's holy day. So, that religious freedom that we have, if we then allow them to violate God's holy day, we are violating, Proverbs 22 verse 6 talks about bring up your children in the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. Ask yourself, if you allow them to compromise on the Sabbath, when they grow up, what will happen? It becomes worse. But even yourself, if you think of it, you may be reasoning that I'm compromising for good reason. When time of trouble comes, what will happen? You also compromise for what? For good reason. Because you have been practicing it. So it's something that we have to think about deeply. Yes, Coco?
If you take your children to a Catholic school, what do you expect at the end of the day?
So she's asking, what do you expect at the end of the day? And my brother responded and said, a Catholic. Food for thought, right? 4 minutes past 4. Okay, let me end. This will be the last segment before my conclusion. Ephesians 5, verse 22 to 24. Elder, can you just keep them close? It talks about wives, submit to your husbands as unto the Lord. Yes, you are free, but you must respect and honor your husband. You're a free individual, right? Freedom must not be used as am I there? Yes. Freedom must not be used as an opportunity for the flesh, e.g., I'm talking about marriage, silent treatment, and so on. Yeah. Yeah. I know those who are married say at times it's effective. Yes, Mrs. Nyemba. Elder Daniel will provide us with the answer after that.
Sorry, Elder, I'm not talking about the silent treatment. I want to take you back. You were talking about the offerings and all that. I just wanted to ask, Uti, when do our children learn to bring a faithful tithe and offering? When I started coming to this church, those things were taught from crackle roll right up to all the primary classes. So during Sabbath school, encouraging children to bring their tithes and offering. And it was a special occasion, teaching them why they have to bring an offering or a gift for Jesus. So we would find that each child would feel challenged when that Sabbath morning they had nothing to bring. They would make an effort to say, next Sabbath, I'm bringing in something for Jesus. But since that practice stopped, I don't know why it stopped. There is no Sabbath school or offering being taken in the children's department, even the adults Sabbath school session. When do you expect a child to learn to bring in a faithful tithe and offering? Because during divine service, there are many divine service under children's ministries. It's just like here, the deacons will stand up with an offering plate. You put money or you don't put money. It's to me, I don't think it's meaningful to the young people.
Okay.
And they've gone the stage of learning They're just seeing people observing, putting money or no money. It doesn't matter. And then you expect those very children, when they start working or when they are in their youthful ages, give an offering. It's meaningless to them.
Okay.
Doesn't mean anything. That's why you'll find that as soon as the elderly, their fathers and mothers retire from work, the tithes and offerings, the church, they drop because the generation thereof doesn't know anything, doesn't see any significance and the importance of giving the tithe and an offering. So
Okay.
I don't know why it was stopped, because umntwana ufunda ngokubona la ngokubona umzali esenza. Nxa kungasenziwa khonokho during Sabbath school, uza kufunda nini?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think the leadership is here and they've heard, so they must reinstate such programs. Okay. So allow me, I saw your elder, I saw your hand. Let me finish then, because then I'll leave the rest of the questions to the elders, because my time is up, but I started late, I would have finished on time. So husbands, love, nourish and cherish your wives, that Ephesians 5:25-29. Yes, you are free, husbands, but freedom is manifested in how you treat your wife. No abuse and no violence, whether physical or mental. The Bible, and support the wife and the children financially. The Bible says you shall know them by their fruits. That's Matthew 7 verse 16. And let your light so shine that people may see your good works and praise your Father who is in heaven. So let me go to the conclusion. Mahatma Gandhi, in his 7 deadly sins, summed up freedom very well thus: the ultimate cost of pleasures without conscience, that's freedom without responsibility, are high as measured in terms of time and money, in terms of reputation, and in terms of wounding the hearts and minds of other people who are adversely affected by those who want to indulge and gratify themselves in the short term. After all is said and done, therefore, to embrace freedom means to renounce the spirit of domination, abuse, or use of people. It means embracing the infinite worth of every human being, regardless of their gender, religion, tribe, or even political affiliation. Indeed, it means recognizing the inherent dignity of each and every individual here on earth and respecting and protecting that dignity. It means exercising our freedom in such a way that it will benefit our immediate family, our community at large, and even ourselves. It means acting responsible all the time. Freedom and true freedom should never be used as an opportunity of the flesh. Society can only be better, therefore, only if we use our freedom responsibly. May God bless you. So, Elder, you can ask your question. And like I said, my time is up. I started 15 minutes late.
I think I'll be audible enough. My question is on the insurance.
Okay.
The insurance for the property, church property and everything. And it's under, I'm sure it's under the church governance.
Yes.
Who owns the company where we take our insurances to? Because if I have a group, I want to move, want to go and present somewhere.
Okay.
We pay insurance.
Okay.
In the event there's an accident, but what happens if the accident did not occur? What happens to those monies? Suppose the insurance, suppose the accident has happened. Somehow people are not helped there and there, or they may not be helped. The reason why I'm asking, I'm sure Ellen White says something on insurance. I can't give the book. I want us to discuss that. My second question, I'm a church member. I decide to do Bible study somewhere. But somehow, it's like I'm being followed, being checked. The group of people that I'm studying Bible with. If they are not Adventists, I'm clipped, I'm quoted, nominations, my name appears in the nominations. Those that will be there, they release this information. And it gets to me that don't choose that one because he is whatever you can put the name, you describe that person. And then next time my name appears again, I refuse to take office because there are people who are backbiting within the same church, which is an Adventist church, which is professing to be a heavenward bound church. Freedom of worship, but the person is not free in the sense that there are some strings that are sort of gripping that person. Isn't that an infringement or tarnishing somebody's image because he was found studying Bible with a Roman Catholic?
Okay.
Why are you studying such people?
Okay.
Or an Adventist that backsliding and you happen to know that person?
Okay. So, Elder, so the first question on insurance, it's something that can be discussed elsewhere, because one would have to research on who does the insurance and whatever. But it's a different aspect altogether, and it wouldn't fall here. The second one is also a specific one, because you know when you raise issues that happen in the nominating committee, that is also supposed to be taken to what? To the leadership to deal with that specific situation. Because firstly, the person who released the information to you from the nominating committee should not have done that, you know, because he's bound by the oath of secrecy. Then secondly, that situation that you are mentioning, if it has come to you, must also go to the leadership, and they deal with that. The principle that I wanted you, and I still want you to understand, is religious freedom allows you to choose the church you want to belong to. But each and every church has got rules and regulations. So before you choose the church, look at the manual, look at the fundamental beliefs and see whether it aligns with you. Because once you are inside the church, those rules and regulations, the church manual, will apply to you. That's the principle that I wanted everyone to come away with. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So in terms of that area where names of people are discussed, it's too porous. It's too porous. I'm not referring to myself. I'm not emotional.
It's fine.
I'm saying the church, for the health, spiritual health of the church. When we say religious freedom, I have a right to express myself.
Yes.
Not according to somebody's ideas. I have a right to believe
church manual.
Church manual, yes, according to the Bible.
Yes.
Everything mentioned,
yes,
in the Bible. But somehow I'm supposed to dance to somebody's ideas.
Okay. So Elder, you said it doesn't refer specifically to you. It may be someone else. I would like you to take it to the leadership. Yes. And if you want me to be part of it, I will. I can handle that situation.
All right.
Let me, do I have time? No. So I see the hands, the two hands. I'm told that I do not have time. So church, I hope you have been blessed with this, by this lesson. I've tried to unpack the religious freedom, and I've tried to also show how it applies to us on a practical basis. So let's study more and be Seventh-day Adventists at home, in our workplaces, and in our social lives. Elder, I think I owe you. It's covered. Okay. Okay. You can see me in chambers. It's fine. Eh? It's covered. It's not. Okay. See me in chambers. Otherwise, my name will be removed from the church register.
Very exciting. I also feel maybe it got to be too wide. If we had gone with religious liberty, the first part, and gone deeper, I think my elder Moyo there would have enjoyed it even more. I just wanted to say the problem with freedom is it's always easier taught and learned by the oppressor. Yeah, freedom is always easier when it's actually explained by the free. Yeah, it has never, it's not a subject that you would find in the camp of the slaves. They would not be able to explain to each other freedom. That's why you find slaves were very heavenward bound. They would always teach each other about heaven and not about freedom. That's the complexity of freedom. I then wanted to say, which is something that I'm just going to say rhetorically. The day that this church became a church and stopped being a cult, that's where the problem started. Cults are often better because they do not have opinionated religious stance. But churches have a dilemma with opinions. And which is why now our church is in silos. If you specialize in tithes, you emphasize tithes. If you specialize in prophecy, you emphasize that. If you specialize in long dresses, you think that's where religion is. If you are actually one who was saved from many wives, you actually think you are converted because you don't have one. It's one of those. And because of that, we are highly opinionated and very polarized as well. Which is why elder, it becomes a confusion. I will use the name that probably Elder Moy was trying to avoid. You are labeled a Davidian because you still are part of this church, but you have certain things that probably, interpretation-wise or opinion-wise, differ slightly with probably the mainstream. How do we deal with such when you still can maintain, you still can be here in church, you still can be worshiping at City Center Church, but you still have these fine opinions about certain things that are not necessarily in tandem with the good of the church. We have politicians in church, for instance, and we have people who have different opinions about it. How do you become a politician and still be a pen of inspiration believing Adventist and still be fine again? So I think I'll give it this as a homework to you, elder, to see next time when you break this bread, it's going literal. When we talk about it with our relationship, our inter-church relationships. But trust me, religious liberty has become complex and even more complex within the walls of the Adventist church. It's easier for it to be explained when we give glaring examples. But today, because we are now not on the straight and narrow, it's now so difficult. These young people will feel judged if we now talk about certain things that are not tolerated at church. So how do we balance out with tolerance and all?
Thanks, my daughter. So if you notice the presentation, it's deliberate. Yeah, because what with religious liberty, it can cover a greater expanse of areas. And remember, it's public affairs and religious liberty, right? So this one is talking about us, Seventh-day Adventists, various aspects. In fact, I cut the paper because it had 10 more slides about the things I was supposed to talk about. But you can't finish them in 1.25 hours that I was given, right? And we, God willing, the next presentation covers what we believe is the SDA Church's position regarding participation in politics. And so that what you are talking about will be covered. Yeah. And so those are things that can be covered at one go. But I'm glad you bring that up, and it advertises the next religious liberty because there are more other aspects that we want to cover under religious liberty. But thank you for your participation, and we trust that you benefited from the lesson. I'll ask our chorister to lead us in song, and then the elder Maposa will give us our closing prayer. Yeah, it's the.
All right. Let's do 618. Let's just do the last stanza. Stand up for Jesus. Not so sure for 618 and SD hymnal. Shall we stand as we sing? Stand up for Jesus, and the strife will not be long. There's the noise of battle.
Just a quick reminder, we are going to have our Vespers in about 45 minutes. That is exactly 5:15. We are going to have a very, very short Vespers. So we encourage you to just go outside, socialize, engage, and come for the departing word. May the Lord bless you.